Welcome to September. My name's Alan. I guess all of you at this point know that.
Who are you?
Alan. I'm Alan. Alan Miller. I'm Super Santa.
There we go. That's what I do.
Anyway, so welcome to the meeting. I don't have a lot of really much upcoming stuff. Anybody have any questions? Things you need to share or want? We have a new visitor here named Rob, is that it?
Yes, sir.
Holloway.
Yep.
So make sure you harass him later. Make him
Please
feel
do.
at home.
Yeah.
So we have Expedient here tonight. They're down from Columbus. We appreciate their making the trip. And I'm going to turn the floor over to this is Steve and Chris. However you guys want to.
Sure. Let's start kicking it off. Thanks a lot, everyone, for coming out. We're going to run through some introductions here. We're going to have an interactive discussion. And what we mean by an interactive discussion is if you guys are not asking questions of us, we'll start asking questions of you. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. We wanted to have an educational experience tonight, but we want to have some fun with it as well. As you can see, so I have a little bit of fun. And of course, we'll have some Q&A at the end. I'm Steve Gruetter. That is how you spell Gruetter, unpronounceable after spell. I do know if this whole IT thing doesn't work out for me, I do have a future at Walmart. Okay? I'm the director. Yeah, that's the lead-off joke that always bombs. I like it. So I've been with Expedient for a little over 7 years now. I've been in IT since 2000. I like to tell a story when I'm in the fine city of Cincinnati. The Gruetter family is on the Hungarian side, it's kind of broken up between the side of the family that's got athletic talent and the side of the family that has laptop. Okay? And is anyone here familiar with University of Cincinnati tennis? Tennis. Okay. Eric Toth was the head coach at Xavier for years and years and years and years. Now he's a head coach at University of Cincinnati, and he's my cousin. And he rocks. He's in the Cincinnati Tennis Hall of Fame and the whole bit. And Western and Southern's got the big rah-rah that they do over there, and he got to walk around the court, and everything was really cool. So that's my little Cincinnati story, if you will. I'm a father of 6 and 2 grandsons. Just married into 4 kids in the last year. And we are one big dysfunctional Brady Bunch. Okay. This is my, I'm going to do the play-by-play. This is my cohort in crime, Kris Hill. Chris?
I've been at Expedient about 2.5 years. Been in IT since 2009. Started off on kind of the network side with the Time Warner and XO Communication. Then transitioned over to infrastructure with Expedient. I didn't make this slide. Steve put that in, and I'm a dad of 3. I got a 5, 3, and 1-year-old, so busy times.
And Chris, we can do some color for us tonight. We appreciate you guys coming out after hours. We were talking a little bit here pre-game where we organize and we sponsor some users groups, and we think that user groups are really important for the community. People being educated, taking time out of their personal lives to try to make the community a little bit bigger, a little stronger. And honestly, we really do appreciate it. We're highly involved with user groups in Central Ohio. We want to become more involved down here as well. So, all right, we have to have that mandatory slide with the stapler, and everyone knows somebody in IT like Milton, right? It's underappreciated and overworked. So we're going to try to do a little bit of education here to maybe make it easier for you. So we're talking about new developments in cloud. It's probably not surprising that 60% of the workloads right now are being done in some type of a cloud service, either internal, external, whatever might have you. So some of the topics that we're going to touch on tonight, multi, on-site, automated DR, hyperconverged security, hybrid cloud, and serverless containers, microservices. We are not wrapping into the presentation tonight. We just kind of wanted to touch on it, that those 2 topics are also really huge going on right now. But realistically, we could do 2 or 3 or 4 hours on any one of those topics. So we're just going to do some touch on those tonight. So Here's the dirty little secret about cloud. No one does it unless you have to, right? Chris, why? Why is no one doing it until they have to?
I think a lot of people are interested in evaluating it, saying, hey, cloud, what is it? But at the end of the day, there isn't value, there isn't a true business case. Yeah, it's cool, yeah, it's emerging, but you don't understand it. It doesn't make sense just to go to it because it's cool and new, right?
Okay, so it's work. It's hard to do it right. So you need partners, you need support to go ahead and do it. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to call out some of the compelling reasons that we see that people go ahead and invest the talent, invest the time, invest the cost in moving to the cloud. So one of the top reasons that we see when we're out there is your hardware is aged. And at this point in time, you've got to make the decision, right? Are you going to go ahead and buy the hardware? Are you going to go and invest and see and make all the decisions in the process? Or are you going to make it somebody else's problem, right? So what we see a lot of, and I'm sure you've all heard it and talked about it, is the move from a capital expenditure into operating expenditure. And so many companies really want to have that monthly check where they know what the expenditure is going to be instead of the every so often massive outlay. So
Business is moving, growing, needs to be more agile. It's hard when, as quickly as technology is changing in today, to predict what you need in 3 years, let alone 6 months to 1 year. So where it used to be a little easier to predict and understand what you need, what to budget for, it's hard. So being able to scale and per increment where you kind of turn the dial as needed, kind of like a just-in-time inventory, right? Increase the resources as needed, provides a lot of value to the business.
we talked about how businesses are launching new lines of business and such. Well, often they think they might know what they're going to need, but they don't really know what they're going to need. So it's a lot easier to have the small incremental spend, and again, know what it's going to be each month rather than the shot in the dark. No one out there, you buy yourself a 20 terabyte SAM, and you realize, oh, I only need 8 terabytes. You can't go turn it in. You're not going to get any money back. So, all right. More and more is everyone, we were just talking about security just a second ago, didn't we? So, security and compliance are such big topics right now, and we're going to touch on this when we touch on security. It's so difficult for the smaller mid-sized shop to keep everything covered on this one, so they want to do more support with it. You know all about this one.
Yeah, the failure, right? Been doing things a certain way, something goes wrong, then they're saying, well, why aren't we in the cloud? Things never fail there. Right? Or that's the perception. That's the perception for people outside of IT. Or I mean, that's also part of the influence is IT is getting that external pressure from the CEOs, the COOs, the CFOs who keep hearing all the great things about cloud, all the reasons to go there, and they say, well, why aren't we there? And then when it gets to IT, hold on, slow down. It's not quite that easy. You can't just hit a magical button and now you're on the cloud. And let alone even understand what the cloud is for some of these organizations.
That's right. So, and this is, I think, really the most compelling topic that we're going to touch on. The business wants the skilled IT staff to concentrate on their efforts on things that will actually help the business, right? Keeping the lights on, the projects that are just the standard run-of-the-mill projects. No one gets a gold star that the backups are done today, right? It just doesn't happen. So the fact of the matter is that concentrate your best people on things that drive the business forward, and not on which type of our 31 different types of servers are we going to buy, right? So it all boils down to what's the outcome the business is looking for, right? Are they looking for greater agility? Are they looking to save money? Does the cloud save money? Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. It almost always saves on the initial investment, but
You got monthly fees.
what's that?
Monthly fees.
Monthly fees, right. And does it help you manage your risk? Well, if you do a Google search, and I did one, I did a security presentation about 2 months ago, there were 994 million responses on is the cloud secure, right? It was amazing. And it's kind of funny because the number one reason not to move to the cloud is security, and the number one reason to move to the cloud is security. All right? So,
And it depends on how you do it.
okay. Back to the human factor. We just talked about this, right? And then, is it to eliminate downtime? Well, it depends. Again, it depends. It depends how you do it, right? You want to go cheap? Not necessarily. Does it eliminate downtime? Right? Sometimes it will. But a lot of times you can have extension of your support team. Again, back to skilled IT staff doing things that drive the business forward and letting somebody else handle the infrastructure. So we're going to start getting into the topics. Multi-cloud. Kris, you've had a lot of experience with multi-cloud.
Multi-cloud is, I mean, it sounds pretty self-explanatory, right? It's the use of multiple clouds. But why is that important? Why are people doing it? Typically, it's the larger enterprise that want to manage some risk, right? They don't want to have all their eggs in one basket, so maybe they're leveraging AWS for some of their infrastructure and Google Cloud Compute for some. And having, so if there was that massive outage where AWS goes down, which it happens. I think Azure was down yesterday for a few hours.
Yeah.
There was an O365 and some of the Azure services. It was in San Antonio. There was lightning strikes and overheated the facility, so there was problems. And even the Microsofts, the AWS, the Googles of the world do have problems. So kind of diversifying those workloads, not having all in one basket is way, and different services, right? Different applications complement different environments. I mean, we're all using multiple clouds today, whether it be SaaS-based or some of these public cloud environments as well. And finding the right tool and aligning the kind of right application workload for the use case is one of the key metrics to have to be successful.
So one thing that when we talk about, this is Expedient's definition of the multi-cloud, and almost every organization might refer to it differently. We just wanted to call it the fact that when we're talking multi-cloud, it's when the business uses two or more of the shared or public clouds, right? And what we really consider hybrid cloud, because we might call that hybrid cloud, and what we consider that is when you're using one of the cloud vendors, and then you also have your own cloud built on site, and you combine those two resources to try to get your workloads done. So we just didn't want to parse any terms or confuse anybody here. So one thing that you're going to see, and we're going to touch on this, is what are the types of clouds, and we think that it really breaks down application clouds and enterprise clouds. And again, best tool for the job. I like to build things out of wood, right? I got like 85 freaking saws in the garage. My wife hates it. So I build a shed out of wood. And I use 85 different saws to do the job. The best tool for the job, use the right tool for the job. So, new developments in multi-cloud.
With the multi-cloud focus and having all these dispersed environments, it's becoming more and more challenging for some of these larger enterprises. How do we know what's out there? How do we know what we don't know? And how do we effectively manage that? So finding ways from a risk security perspective to have that centralized management where maybe you have your on-premise cloud, maybe VMware-based cloud, into AWS, into Azure, having the same security parameters, and being able to centrally manage those different environments, where before we used to have it all under one roof. It was a little less complex. It's trying to have basically build a bigger roof around a bigger environment.
And also when you've got that centralized management, you can move the workload, again, the right application in the right spot, making sure you're taking advantage of the tools that are out there. So relatively new development here on on having a security profile and being able to manage a security profile at one vendor and use the same security profile to manage another vendor on something like this. But it makes sense. Why? Well, again, we're back to matchmaking, right? Got to figure cost, got to figure security, got to figure uptime, got to figure scalability. Some of those work with each other, some of them work against each other, right? And some clouds are better than others to accomplish these. So, question here? Sorry, percolating the question there. No? Okay. Right. Sorry. So application versus enterprise cloud.
When we say that, what does that mean to you guys? Is there a general understanding today of kind of what the main differences are?
Well, for me, basically, the application cloud is a good example is the Google. You can get Google apps that you run actually on a cloud basis versus having the apps oriented locally. And also, it's different for what a small business would do for their applications versus an enterprise.
Sure.
You know, and because applications usually have licenses attached to them, then there's another consideration for how you're going to deploy that. It's really, there's different ways to do it, and it's always a challenge to try to figure out for this business, what does this business need to make them run more efficiently, and what's the best way to distribute the money and the resources. But application.
You're right, it's certainly becoming a greater challenge because, let's face it, 3 years ago we weren't talking multi-cloud. Right, this is new, this is a new development. So you've got to have the technical expertise to help figure this out, or at least be able to select the right vendors that can help you pull it off.
What's the big difference between, say, a traditional VMware Hyper-V based cloud compared to the AWS, Azure, Google's of the world? Or is it all pretty similar to clouds as well?
Fire away.
I would suggest that, like Azure stuff, if you start using more resources, it'll automatically give you more resources, where I don't know if the VM does that.
That's, yeah, the hyperscalability.
The elasticity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a huge use case. I mean, being able to scale out thousands of machines on code, scale it back down a second later. Can't necessarily do that with VMware unless you want to have 1,000 machines worth of resources provisioned where you're utilizing it for 1 second.
Yeah, and VMware, I love that because they capture a zillion freaking dollars in licensing fees. So
It's those use cases, though. I mean, go ahead, click through those, and we'll talk through them. So the main difference we'll highlight. This is going to highlight the application. The next slide highlights the enterprise cloud. Application is kind of that new age use case where the redundancy sits in the actual app itself. It's built to be redundant in these environments. So that app-aware is a common term that they use. So if it fails in one region, it'll come up in another. Or you can set it where, hey, you're running this many instances. If you ever see it fall below that, make sure you spin up new ones. Traditional off-the-shelf enterprise, you need the redundancy in the infrastructure, where maybe you have an N+2 for your host, where one could be down for maintenance, one could fail. But if you're running N+2, you still don't have any impact to the end users.
fluctuating workloads, I like using the example with Netflix, right? So their demand, what they have to provide for their client base, is dramatically different on Friday night as compared to Tuesday morning, right? And we're talking very, very short time. I mean, Friday morning to Friday night is dramatically different. So you have to have that hyper scalability, and they use Amazon, and it's perfect for something like that. It really is, because they're paying more to Amazon, but they're making more money by all the movies going out at that point in time. So it goes hand in hand. However, right, let's continue using Netflix. Their back room, they're watching, right? They are at that point in time an enterprise, right? So they will want to use an enterprise cloud to manage the logic and the backroom applications control the AWS servers on the hyperscale. So you can see just within one service delivery, right? It's really two applications there, and it drives the demand for two different clouds. So
There also has to be, I mean, from a cost perspective, with that scalability or even the storage, you might go in and do some of the cost modeling and say, hey, this is what it's going to cost. We haven't met with one client that's went into those hyperscale relationships, the AWS, Azure, and Google, and met their 1-year budget. I mean, it just doesn't exist because you might contract the storage, this is the cost, well, that was at 100 IOPS. If it calls for 2,000 IOPS, guess what? It scales. So the organization
cost scales quickly.
from a government perspective, it's a little different because now you buy the hardware, you know what it costs, and that's the performance you get. There, the applications converse to it. So that's another big difference between the application and the enterprise.
Go ahead, please.
When this first started out, a lot of people hated, they said AWS was nice if you're going to use it for a short period of time. But if you need it for a longer period of time, it got very expensive, so that's why it was Azure and the other things. They kind of changed their pricing model to make them more.
They've changed their pricing model tremendously and significantly since it first started. Well, let me tell you a story. Obviously, we work for a data center, right?
Yeah.
So we can't say a lot of names,
Yeah.
right? So let's just say there's a insurance company in the state of Ohio. Let's go call that out, right? And they came in and said, all right, guys, we're moving everything to AWS. And we said, you know, you guys are really great guys, and we really like you, and we'll be there for you when this all goes to shit, okay? I was not the lead on that opportunity because I have no tact whatsoever, and that's exactly what I would have said, but that's what we meant, right? So they moved everything to AWS, and they ran 36 months of budget in 10 months. Wow. And their CFO says, hold on, find something to do, something different. And we were there, and they are in the process of moving major chunks of that out. Okay, so you're right on that one. AWS is a great.
Hyper-converged beverages?
Hyper-converged beverages. We're going to talk about hyper-conversions right now, and we thought we'd use an example.
Gotcha.
Are we good? Okay.
I'm with it.
Hey, sometimes some slides work and some don't, but just work with this, okay? All right, so let's say you're in a swanky Caribbean resort, right? And here's your margarita. That's nice, right? Sometimes you don't want to drink orange. So maybe switch to beer, right? Thing is, it's nice and warm. That swanky Caribbean resort. So beer might get a little warm. So you gotta have a solution. Everything has to be solution based. So now you have a hyper-converged beverage. Put it all together and it works better.
Yeah.
Okay, no? Okay, let's get into hyper-converged infrastructure. What is it? Software-defined infrastructure, where you are putting everything together, compute virtualization, storage virtualization, and the management layer to run the whole thing. What's it do for you?
It basically takes that complexity of a traditional three-tier architecture of storage, compute, and network, where some of those, especially on larger enterprises, they're siloed, right? You have the storage team, the network team, the compute team. Combines them all into one. Takes away some of that complexity with getting everything to interact. It's all built, and really the magic's in the software. If you talk to Nutanix, for example, they consider themselves a software company, but obviously the hyper-converged infrastructure is product with the software, which makes the magic for how it operates. It allows it to be more of a scale-out model, so you just essentially, it's almost like Lego blocks. You need additional capacity. You just keep pulling them on, and it all integrates and talks to each other across it.
The idea is the hypervisor that it uses and the management layer automate so many of the functions that you're doing on something like that, and to Chris's point, adding the Lego building blocks, and it really increases your speed of service. Is anyone here using any hyperconverged, any exposure to hyperconverged?
Audited.
Okay, all right. So there is arguments out there that by the efficiency that you pick up, it costs less. But right now, I think that the market is still trying to figure out whether or not it's truly a lower cost of full TCR. So, but I will say that Nutanix stock is just going through the roof. So.
If you had traditional, you have this illustrates kind of your compute up top, you've got your network in the middle, and then the storage at the bottom with your SANs. I mean, on the left, you can see all the hosts, the networks, the SANs, they're all individually. You have to make them all work, communicate, connect. Hyperconverged, kind of like we just summarized, it takes all that complexity from the management, the hypervisor, compute, network disk, squishes it all into one, and it knows how, when you pull on additional capacity, to kind of orchestrate across all the different platforms. It's not, hey, you have this storage here, let me allocate what I want to store here, provision more LUNs, things of that nature. It's all done in the infrastructure, which helps with some of the complexity, right? You don't have to have, you can have one person manage the hyperconverged infrastructure as opposed to having all the different expertise in those silos.
And that's again where they're saying that the savings comes in at. I hate to see savings that take out manpower, but that is one of the aspects of it. So we just wanted to put up some slides here of some of the main players in this space. So just kind of throwing it out there. Nutanix is probably the biggest, hottest name there, but every one of those other vendors would argue that. So, all right. We're going to touch on security. This is going to be the last aspect of the presentation that we touched on here. So we talked about shadow IT a little bit. Anybody have a good definition of shadow IT for us? You know what we caught him eating. Yeah, it's good pizza. Whose pizza is this?
Papa John's.
Papa John's? Okay. Win. All right. Okay. A good definition of shadow IT is when the IT team needs to move faster than the compliance team. Okay? So, Mr. Auditor, not picking on you, okay? But you've seen this happen, haven't you? Okay? So there you go. They're getting things done, and it's not going through standard protocols, right? It's your job to find those. So, is this the main reason that you've seen this right here? Faster delivery, faster execution, and all the compliance steps, the security steps are being bypassed in order to get the job done faster.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of times. Sometimes it's me doing it, but
All right. Well.
yeah,
Okay.
you know, we'll try it. I spent a lot of time as a pen tester too. So.
Oh, sure. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
A
Okay.
real early example, I mean, marketing has 10 times the budget as IT. Marketing goes to IT and say, hey, I need to get this application running. And IT goes, okay, cool, we got a queue, we got to do this. We'll get back to you in 2 weeks. Marketing says, that's not acceptable.
Marketing whines to the president.
Go swipes their card on Amazon. They've got the resources provision instantly. So then, you'll see that where there's this rogue environment that's not following the overall company security parameters, and it was because IT wasn't able to fulfill the need in what was a timely manner.
And what we're calling out here is shadow IT is not inherently malicious by any means, but
usually it ends up being insecure. That's
correct.
Because they have someone provisioning it that really has no expertise.
It's not a security first mindset. It's
Right.
This is my need. How can I get it?
let's get it done. right?
You know,
Uh-huh.
it's like directly the access database.
I think-
boom, I'm done.
And sometimes
four
that
or
gets.
five of the breaches I've been involved in, investigating have been, probably 4 out of 5 have been due to shadow
There you go. Wow. Okay. So it drives the compliance and security teams nuts. There you go. Yeah. So, and because the cloud enables it, because you can move faster. There's no doubt about it. So if you had to go buy the servers and get them provisioned and get them worked into your IT department, that wouldn't exist. So, all right. So, I mean, it could exist, but not anywhere as easy. So right here, this is also some of the other headaches that come out of the cloud aspect, and that is that you've got a lot of security frameworks, compliance frameworks to manage, right? You might have HIPAA, you might have PCI. It depends on which NIST standards your company's using. Are you global? Are you doing anything overseas? You've got to have some aspect of SOC control, or at least you hope you do. So there's a lot of things to manage, and a lot of times it just simply gets overloaded. If you're part of an IT security team that's underfunded, right? The fact of the matter is you've got just way too much on your plate. I'm going to come back to you on this one. Is that one of the main reasons that you're seeing that companies will miss spots in an audit? Is because they just didn't have the time or the manpower or the wherewithal?
Yeah, and we had a nice SOC meeting last night, but what our subject was the fact that risk professionals are going to have to change the way we do things also, just to keep up with the pace of change. And it's because some of the people who want some things done don't even know what the regulations are. We don't always know what the regulations are.
Because it's changing so quickly.
It's changing so quickly.
Yeah, all right. And you're expected to, and the IT security professional is expected to manage everything on that one, except expectations. Because they're managed for them. So, common issues we find that these come up at, right? Unsupported tools, lack of internal expertise. So, what are companies doing about it? Anyone want to venture a guess on this one? Nothing. That's answer number one. That's the most popular answer. That's correct. Nothing. But again, like we talked about early on, make it somebody else's problem, right? Vendor controls. So on this aspect here, you'd want to validate that whoever you're doing business with is doing the basics. These are the very basics that you do, right? So make sure they're doing them, right? We'll send out this presentation later on.
So
just a checklist.
one thing people don't think of if you were an organization, you're evaluating, say, moving to a data center company or things of that nature, it's a pretty thorough evaluation. You have all these standards that you adhere to. Now, if you're contracting with the software as a service company and you want to sign up for their service, do you think about all these things? What they're practicing? What do they adhere to?
Just
Fire away, please.
You get one of my sore spots at this point. When you start dealing with the software as a service company, especially one, all the time, I get somebody who said, well, no, you have an SSA 16, sure, our data center does. No, your data center does, but you don't. Your application also needs one.
Correct you are, and how come they don't do them?
Because they're hard.
They're hard and they're expensive.
Yes.
Yes.
Extremely.
Yes. We pay out the wazoo for our audits every year. Yes, we do.
And it's also a different mindset. Like I
Not
said,
you. The objective is set to turn off at a certain time.
Oh, we went way over. Oh,
No.
I'm gonna cut it back on.
That- If it's left on from the teacher, then it just turns itself off.
But it's interesting that perspective, right? Because you don't evaluate them with the same scrutiny. Or Salesforce. Salesforce is so big, right? It's got to be secure. Is it?
No, they just gotta reach.
Right, and everybody can, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but when you sign up with these companies, you say, hey, this is the business there, and this is what they do. They're hosting it, so there's a natural assumption that it's okay. But a data center, that's what a data center does, you don't have that same assumption. There's a lot of scrutiny involved in that evaluation process.
Yeah, you know, I will take an attestation that the data center is secure because most of the ones I've been in, they've done their stuff. But the application providers, you know, oh yeah, we got this application, we're taking input from nonprofits. This is an IOA application.
Sure.
And they hired a software development firm. Oh yeah, everything's hunky-dory. And we could get into just download it. More PII than I ever would want to see. And HIPAA data.
Yep.
Yeah.
So on that note, in that little box you check, I accept these terms.
Uh-huh.
You ever go into that box, do a copy, and then paste it onto a Word doc? One time I did it was 17 pages. You gotta be kidding me. Okay, all right. So, some aspects that you should be on the lookout for when you're talking to a vendor. What security tools do they provide? Well, I should be able to provide these. So, not gonna get in each and every one of them. Just makes sense for this to be done. I'm going to highlight one of them, and that is DDoS mitigation, right? So this is one of those tools out there that's inherently more easily provided by the cloud vendor than it is by a large company. Let's say you're Procter & Gamble, you can afford it, right? It's expensive. Arbor Networks that does DDoS mitigation is expensive, right? So it's better that one person buys it and spreads the cost out of 400, 500 firms, right, rather than somebody just, you know, buying it one for their own. So but these are, I mean, that's table stakes anymore. A cloud vendor that doesn't have DDoS mitigation, they're a target, right? Okay, so finally, so you didn't hear anything about who Kris and I work for, right? So we're going to finish the presentation just by giving us a little talk about Expedient here. Obviously, we provide cloud and managed services, we provide co-location, provide network. Something that's unique about us is that we are privately held, where almost every data center out there is held by a venture capital firm. We're actually privately held. We're family held, for that matter, the Matter family. And it's because they give us lots of money, so I really appreciate that family. My Expedient started in 2001, and now today. We started with VMware Cloud in 2008, and now we're a top 5 VMware Cloud in America. So, a little bit there. These are the things that we pride ourselves on and to be able to help out clients. I'm not going to go recite the screen, but this is what we hang our hat on. So to help companies out. There we are. We go from Boston to Memphis. We like having 2 in a town. We like being in tier 2 cities. You know what a tier 2 city is? It doesn't have 4 sports teams. I know. Right? Okay. So we're in Boston and they got 4 sports teams. That's fine. And Memphis, you could argue, is barely a tier 2 city, but Memphis is doing great. So we're come down from the Columbus office. Both Kris and I work in Dublin, and we're going to say that there's more on the way. 3 to 5 new markets in the next 16 months. So we're excited. So don't know where the next one's going to be. And the guy who's in charge of figuring out what the next one's going to be. He lives in Dublin, he works in Dublin, and we see him about 3 hours a week. So, this is how we do our cloud. We're not going to go do a breakdown in this either. If you want to talk just about this slide a little bit later. Send this one out to people.
The main highlights is we have the capacity, right, to scale, to grow, to meet your guys' needs. The business doesn't have to worry about that anymore. They're all dedicated resources, so there's no oversubscription, there's not performance issues from a noisy neighbor perspective. It's with an environment you're familiar and you're known, VMware. So literally we provision a resource pool for you. You got the IT still provides value. IT is necessary to enable the relationship. Instead of the sysadmin worrying about, well, this host failed, I need to get it back up and working, or I need to patch that or upgrade to the most current licensing. Now it's cool, I'm managing the resource pools, you're still provisioning VMs, you have that resource pool, you're still managing how everything works and functions. You're just kind of moving one layer up the stack.
We, Chris and I, say thank you for having us in here tonight. We led off saying this. We really do appreciate the fact that you guys invited us. We also really do appreciate that you guys are willing to spend Wednesday night with us and learn and help your organizations out. We think, I almost think being part of the users group ought to be like mandatory in IT, just so you can learn more and share perspectives from other people. So we say thank you.
We'd like to thank your wife.
I told her, hey, baby, it's going to be a late night coming home. Questions? Anything? I mean, by the way, thank you for all the interaction. Yes?
Do you guys know about the September 11th at Sharonville Convention Center? It's the BEMA MusicCon conference?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we do.
You guys want to speak?
We're not speaking, but I'll be there in attendance.
Yeah, September 11th, it's a really busy day, some of the events that we've got going on, and we just couldn't swing doing 2 events in 2 cities on the same day. So luckily, we've got this machine. It's a virtual machine. And we take Kris Hill and we virtually make more of it. So we're going to take one of our Kris Hills and send it down to Sharon.
Okay.
Yes, we are.
But yeah, definitely looking forward to it. The one in Columbus was one of my more favorite events that we had this year. So hoping it'll be the same in Cincinnati.
Anyone here going to ComSpark? 1, 2. I think everyone here should go to ComSpark. I'll go to ComSpark. It's going to be a great event.
It's 2 weeks out.
Yeah, it's on the 18th and 19th. Made friends with Steve Wanamaker. He's doing an event up in Central Ohio too. Boy, what a fun guy he is. He's on the ball. Okay, so people know Steve. No, you don't know him? He is. He's a blast. So we're excited for that. What else are we doing down here? Kris covers a lot of Cincinnati for us. What else have we got going on?
Do you want to, if you don't, I get it, but do you want to talk about this professional development program you were telling me about?
IT leaders.
IT leaders? Sure. Yeah. Boy, there's a way up that one. Softball served at the sea. So, a corporate philosophy of ours is community involvement, giving back, and trying to raise all boats, right? So, and it sounds hoity-toity, but we like to put our money where our mouth is. So what happened is back in 2017, our CIO Tomorrow event, Kate was on workforce development. We had done an internal workforce development project that created my role, expanded the teams, brought Kris on that, and it really made us realize how great workforce development can be for an organization. So we started doing some presentations about it. So the leader of the Central Ohio CIO community, he and I started talking about what could we do for the community as a workforce development project, right? Well, what's our issues that we face? One of the issues that we face is our CIOs are getting a little long in the tooth, right? We have this great community of leaders. They're wonderfully interact with each other, but who's behind them, right? So we said, let's start a leadership development program for the mid-market people, mid-management people who want to be CIOs. They're aspiring to be something more, right? So we partnered with them. We hired a leadership development organization, started put together the program. So we do 6 sessions of formal leadership development training, conflict resolution, best ways to communicate, right? It really is so remarkably eye-opening stuff. And then we bring in 4 sessions of guest speaker CIOs. We reach out to the community. We get people involved. Some of the CIOs, we brought in David White himself, right? And David White used to run Department of Development for the state of Ohio. David White, he's running a $5 billion organization, right? Which is technology focused, the town, right? David White is an outstanding resource for every one of us here in Ohio, right? He was fired from the state of Ohio, right? And he told us all about getting fired and how it happened. And let me tell you, we're in the classroom and our jaws are on the process. This guy can be fired, anybody can be fired, right? And he was radioactive for a year and a half. And okay, how do you get through? And he moves and becomes CIO Battelle. Wow, right? Hellacious story. So we bring in some really great speakers, and then we have a couple social events during the year. No vendors in the room, just all end users, mid-level management. We have a big diversity and inclusion push. Really happy to say, the last class of 50, we had 19 ladies in the class, right? We had 14 people of color in the last class. We're about to kick off our third session, so we'll have 150 people through the program beginning in September. And we were talking to Tracy, right here at the circuit, and if the circuit wants to do this, I hope they do, right? And they're kind of working through things, that we're going to launch an IT Leader Cincinnati. In a perfect world, she'd do it in January. I have a feeling that it's going to be done in May. It just kind of aligns better to.
You have anything up in Cleveland?
No. We might walk. We've got it going on in Indianapolis. It's a slightly different format, but it's along similar lines. And we might roll one out in Pittsburgh right now. That's kind of where we're at. But nothing in Boston, nothing in Baltimore, nothing in Memphis. But Indianapolis is doing really well. Really well. They do theirs more of kind of like a users group with leadership development training. And they'll have, they have 2 sessions a day, and they'll have 60, 70 people in the room. So that goes really well. So thank you for the softball. Sure. Yeah. So, you guys want to learn more about it, just hit me. Expedient doesn't do leadership development training. I'm certainly not teaching it, but I run it and I put it together, and it works out really well for the community. You've got a ton of people in that between the 3 classes so far. Sure. Yeah. So, all right, other questions?
Yeah, did you bring some literature and cards on?
We brought cards, we brought a very little bit of literature.
Okay.
Matter of fact, if you're going to softball me like that, whoa.
I'll take the cards.
Okay.
I'm
Here
actually
is some very simple literature on Expedient. Oh, it's the outcome you're looking for. Boy, yes, Kris Hill is our sales pro here. So, 1, 2, 3, 4.
I think we didn't touch
Think
on
you're
a lot
practicing
of
up.
Expedient
Actually, I need
aspects
one
of it,
more,
but, Expedient's comprised of those 11 data centers across 7 markets. We have them all interconnected with a 100 gig backbone. So really that helps enable that kind of that glue that we talked about. We also have a direct connection to the AWS and Azure to enable that multi-cloud. So organizations can really, we help them navigate that process of understanding which application workloads make sense in which environment and being able to provide that connectivity. Thank you. Wherever it makes sense.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Oh. You know what I need you to do? I need you to stall for about 2 minutes. Okay? Just say whatever you want to say, and I'll be right back.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, basically, you know how you're talking about offloading the mundane for the IT, and letting them focus on more important things. The more we move into the future, it's becoming more and more important to review the setup that you have on your network and make sure that it hasn't been tampered with in any way.
Sure.
And so, when you're too busy trying to keep the updates and trying to keep everything running smoothly, it doesn't really allow for a lot of time to do some of this checking to make sure that somebody isn't just trying to take your network over.
Sure.
And things like that. So the importance of trying to offload the work is just because of the complexity of everything. It's not like it used to be. I mean, that's almost a dumb statement, but it just basically there's a lot more to it. You used to be able to set up a nice little work group, this, that, whatever, small offices function quite well. But as outside forces want to come into play with this, now you've got more things to consider than you had to when these things were just, whatever it is.
And that's part of it. It can't all be done within inside your four walls right now. There's a reason the internet exists, and it is what it is. It's a collection of networks. So as the business, it's absolutely critical that you engages with those, which, like you said, that just broadens the possibilities. And I mean, whether you're making hamburgers, widgets, or you're a healthcare institution, that's your core competency. That's what you should focus on. So unless you're in the data center business, I don't know how much strategic value it provides focusing on those things. And that can sometimes create a sense of fear, or well, what does that mean to me if I am that kind of sysadmin, base layer IT? And it's really just a pivot. It's a shift of taking that knowledge and applying it in a little different manner. The need is absolutely still there, even with complementing of an outsourced provider, say like Expedient for infrastructure. It's just, it shifts a little. But I agree.
So, who are you connected with? Who are your providers? Connectivity.
So we have anywhere between 6 to 12 providers at every single site. We're a mesh network. We also tie into both Equinix facilities in Ashburn and Chicago, and and we'll pick up additional providers there. So all in all, there's probably access to 200 different providers.
Okay.
Pretty much everybody you could think of. We announced BGP out of all of the facilities. As far as our blended internet, we have 11 different uplink providers where we layer it with that over network DDoS protection. And it's the main difference is that the consumption is the main thing when we talk about cloud. Because now you don't have to pay for a gig circuit when maybe the 95th percentile utilization is only 60 megs. You pay for 60 megs, but we have the capacity for you. So if you need burst flow, you can. Same with the resources, the compute and disk. You contract for what you need, you don't have to over provision. So through that right sizing is how it often makes sense from a cost perspective, as well as from a scalability. It really goes back to those 4 pillars to understand what the business is doing. Say a lot of acquisitions are taking place. Great, now you have a scalable model. As you acquire another company, you can fold them in. You can fold them into your security practices, how you operate. You can have that centralized management. You don't have all these dispersed systems, if you will. It's a broader conversation. It's specific to each organization, but that's kind of a high level idea sense.
All right, I have some questions. Okay, please.
Have you ever spoken to a business continuity user group?
Yes.
Yep.
There's one in Cincinnati, but they don't meet that often, so I didn't know if you had interest in doing that.
Yeah, love to learn more.
Yeah, absolutely. We love being part of the events and such, and users groups. The DR Ohio was in the contingency planners of Ohio. Spoke there for several years, especially back when I was in Platform Lab. And we just don't hear much about them anymore. I don't know if they're still around.
Well, the people are, I guess they're just busy.
We all are. Yes, sir.
You guys know about the Ohio Linux Fest in Columbus?
Sure do. Warner Moore. Yeah.
Yeah, we volunteer as well as have a booth there. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
You'll see me through there.
Okay.
When is it?
That's October 12th
Yeah, it's
and
coming up.
13th.
Yeah, I've got to say this, and I love doing the events, but Warner, why are you scheduling this during Ohio State home games? Come on. I work all year long so I can have 12 Saturdays, right? Yeah.
Well, you're trying to get a facility, trying to squeeze in when other things are not going on.
Yeah,
But I'm
absolutely.
surprised they do have rooms at that time, because we once had a hotel right next, or something, right next to the stadium.
Yeah.
And they just, I don't know how they got in, because it was a home game weekend.
Yeah. Questions? Okay, here's some questions for you guys. So, would this type of a presentation fly at a larger venue? And then we're looking for critical feedback here. Just don't say yes to make us feel good. Tell us no and why, right? We enjoyed doing this tonight. Do you think this is a presentation that we could do more often?
What about the MKU Security Symposium? Because they have breakout rooms in addition to keynotes.
NKU security.
Cybersecurity.
Yeah, yeah.
Cybersecurity symposium is probably too late for this year, but yeah, you would fit in really well there because they do disaster recovery. They do, I mean, they cover a gamut. It's legal also and compliance.
Oh, yeah.
So you're going to have it's co-sponsored by Chase School of Law.
Okay.
And the cybernetics division.
So let me do this right now, okay? So shoot me what that looks like
Okay.
on a dollars and cents basis, because on Friday afternoon, I go to bat for my 2019 budget for sponsoring events.
Okay.
I'm the events guy.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean,
I'll send you over.
I'll tell you this much, when you talk about those type of events that go, asking almost any vendor to sponsor an event in September of a given year for something later on that year, every single dollar of ours is spoken for the balance of the year. And we make our budget by October 15th for the rest, for the next year. Every department does. So we gotta know the roadmap and do the prioritization.
I would venture to say you'd fill a room, you'd have at least 50 to 100 people.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, love to evaluate
So,
that.
yeah, I'll say this. Not only that, you should be able to go online and look at most stuff and so you get a feel for what it is.
Sure.
So it'll be recorded.
All right, another question for you. Go ahead, please, keep going.
Is there 1 or 2 hours worth of talk about data? Because every company you're dealing with is data driven, which would be metadata in addition to data of the company, but I don't know if there's enough to talk about.
Possibly.
We might need a partner.
And there's also different depths of silo within Expedient, different expertise and focus of our team, right? Where Steve and I could do it, but it doesn't mean it's